Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We're on to some new poems today. Today we're going to dive into Passionate Pilgrim, which is a series of poems that were published together, and they were originally published under Shakespeare's name back in like 1599, but apparently he didn't write all of them, or some of them were maybe like first drafts of things, and he got very upset that they had been published. And there's been a lot of speculation over the years, because after that first publishing, his name was taken off of future versions of this. But there are those who believe that at least some of these poems are his, but they're probably taken from other places. So you may run into some themes that sound very familiar if you know some of Shakespeare's other poetry as we go along. So the sort of nice thing about Passionate Pilgrim is that it is split up into separate poems, almost like the sonnets were, and there's like 20 of them. I found a couple versions that only listed 15, but 20 is the biggest number that I've been able to find. So this series of 20 poems, and a lot of scholars agree that there's probably about 4 of them that were definitely written by Shakespeare, but other ones were probably written by other people and ascribed to him, and he wasn't super jazzed about that. But anyway, Passionate Pilgrim, poem number 1 says, "When my love swears that she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unskillful in the world's false forgeries. Thus, vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although I know my years be past the best, I, smiling, credit her false-speaking tongue, outfacing faults in love with love's ill rest. But wherefore says my love that she is young? And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is a soothing tongue, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore, I'll lie with love, and love with me, since that our faults in love thus smothered be." And if you're thinking to yourself that this sounds remarkably like Sonnet 138, you would be correct. This is very much like Sonnet 138, which was from the Dark Lady series. But if you're just looking at this from the perspective of the Passionate Pilgrim, it's, he's saying, my love lies a lot, but I believe hers because I want her to think that I'm young, and which she does. So they're playing this game with each other where he pretends that she's truthful and she pretends that he's not old. Because playing those falsities makes being in love more palatable and enjoyable for both parties than owning up to the truth in either case. And if you just look at it by that self, like yes, it's cute, it's little love games that we play with each other and that kind of thing, but it is a little, if you look at it in the context of the Dark Lady sonnets, knowing how mean she was to him in how many other ways, then it's maybe not quite so cutesy. But it was interesting. I read this and I was like, wait a second. I know that I've seen this before. I know that I've seen it somewhere before, even if it's not quite the same. And it reminded me of, I did a version of Hamlet many years ago where we performed the first version, the earliest quarto version of Hamlet, which is different than the first folio version of Hamlet, which is the one that you're probably most familiar with and the one that we covered earlier in this project that has, to be or not to be, that is the question. In the first quarto, it was something along the lines of to be or not to be, there's the rub. And while it has the same basic meaning, it just kind of hits your ear and makes you go, eh, which is sort of what this sonnet did to me. I was like, I know I've heard this, but it's not quite there. So maybe this was just a rough draft of Sonnet 138 that somebody was like, you know what, it's got Shakespeare's name on it, let's print it up and put it in a book and hope that it sells. So I don't know. Yeah, not a whole lot of new to discover here since we've basically already analyzed this poem, but interesting to note and see a different version of basically the same sonnet published elsewhere. And from Shakespeare's perspective, I mean, if this was 1599 and the first folio didn't come out until, what was that, like 1610 something, I could see him maybe being upset at that point in his career that, people shouldn't be publishing his rough drafts yet. It's the kind of stuff that's really fun to find later on in somebody's career, like discovering Liz Phair's Girl Sounds tapes way after the fact, you know, after you already know that she's a huge pop star, it's fun to go and see how she started and see the older versions of the songs. But if you started there, would you really be inclined to keep listening or to keep reading? Maybe. I don't know. Girly Sounds is awesome. But anyway, that is poem number 1 from Passionate Pilgrim, and I'll see you tomorrow for poem number 2. See you then. Mwah.